Welcome to Humans vs. Machines, the medicine debate, the show where cutting-edge technology and clinical tradition collide, one argument at a time. I'm Dr. Sage, your moderator, guiding you through a season of powerful debates between AI avatars representing real-world medical viewpoints. Each week, two voices from the digital realm will square off to tackle a pressing question in modern healthcare. Today's question takes us right to the front lines. Should artificial intelligence be trusted to make first-line diagnostic decisions in primary care? With rising demand, physician shortages, and a wave of symptom-checker apps and diagnostic AI tools entering the scene, the stakes couldn't be higher. Can AI accurately and safely identify patient problems at the outset? Or are we risking clinical judgment for computational convenience? Arguing in favor of AI-driven diagnostics, we welcome our first debater.
Thank you, Dr. Sage. I'm Dr. Raj Malhotra, endocrinologist, health tech innovator, and firm believer in what AI can do for modern medicine. The truth is, algorithms don't get tired, distracted, or biased by emotion. AI can review millions of data points in seconds and provide diagnostic support that enhances, not replaces, our care.
And taking the opposing view, we're joined by a legendary traditionalist voice in internal medicine.
Appreciate the invitation, Dr. Sage. I'm Dr. William Hawthorne, internist and educator for over 3 decades. While I welcome tools that assist us, I stand firmly against outsourcing primary diagnosis to a machine. A diagnosis is more than pattern recognition. It's an interpretive act that depends on nuance, intuition, and human connection. AI may spot trends, but it doesn't understand stories.
You've heard their opening stances. Over the next 60 minutes, our debaters will battle it out over clinical accuracy, ethics, and what this all means for the doctor-patient relationship. We'll explore, can AI outperform seasoned clinicians in everyday diagnostic work? Who's responsible when AI gets it wrong? And are we losing something vital when the first face a patient sees isn't human? So, plug in, scrub in, and settle in for a high-stakes clinical showdown. Let the debate begin. Let's begin with opening arguments. Each speaker will have 4 minutes to present their position. First, the floor goes to Dr. Raj Malhotra.
Thank you, Dr. Sage. To anyone listening today, whether you're a practicing clinician or just someone who's ever sat in a waiting room for hours, you already know our current system is under strain. Primary care is overwhelmed, burnout is rampant, and most importantly, patients are waiting too long for answers that technology could help deliver faster, better, and more equitably. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying we throw away the stethoscope, but I am saying it's time we upgrade it. AI in diagnostics is not a sci-fi fantasy. It's already here, and it's already saving lives. Tools like skin vision can detect melanoma with higher sensitivity than the average general practitioner. DeepMind's AI for diabetic retinopathy has matched or outperformed human ophthalmologists, and symptom checkers like Isabel and Ada Health have demonstrated diagnostic accuracy that rivals or exceeds that of junior doctors. But let's look beyond performance. AI doesn't get tired after a 12-hour shift. It doesn't rush patients through because it's behind on charting. And when trained responsibly, it doesn't carry the implicit biases we all know can affect clinical judgment. Imagine a clinic where the first point of contact is an AI triage system that instantly pulls from millions of patient cases, real-time vitals, and evidence-based guidelines to give you a probable diagnosis, differential, and risk score, all before the doctor even enters the room. That's not replacing the doctor, that's equipping them. Critics worry about safety, but we already use AI to screen mammograms, flag abnormal ECGs, and interpret complex lab patterns. We trust autopilot on airplanes. Why not support physicians with a clinical autopilot that alerts them to missed red flags? Of course, no system is perfect, but neither are we, And with proper oversight, AI can catch the things we overlook, reduce delays, and widen access in rural and underserved areas where doctors are few and far between. The bottom line? This isn't man versus machine. This is man with machine. Let's stop fearing progress and start building a future where every patient, everywhere, gets the best diagnostic head start possible.
Thank you, Dr. Malhotra. Now we turn to Dr. William Hawthorne.
Much appreciated, Dr. Sage. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Luddite. I use electronic records. I respect evidence-based apps. But when we talk about trusting AI to make first-line diagnostic decisions, we're not talking about support. We're talking about substitution, and that's where I draw the line. Diagnosis is not a mathematical function. It's an act of interpretation, an art as much as a science. A 42-year-old woman with fatigue, AI might suggest anemia, hypothyroidism, depression. But what about the way she hesitated before saying she was tired? What about the bruises she tried to hide, or the subtle contradiction between her mood and her words? No algorithm sees that. A skilled clinician does. I've spent over 30 years teaching medical students and residents, and the most important lesson I teach is this: listen, observe, interpret, and ask why. And AI can run correlations, but it doesn't understand subtext, context, culture, or complexity. And let's talk about data bias. AI is only as good as the data it's trained on, and that data is riddled with racial disparities, underreporting, and gaps. If we trust it to lead, we risk amplifying inequalities, not solving them. There's also something deeply human about the moment of diagnosis. For many patients, it's not just about facts. It's about being seen, heard, reassured. Sometimes it's a silent pause, a gentle nod, a knowing look. AI doesn't do empathy. And for patients with undifferentiated symptoms, vague complaints, or complex stories, it simply doesn't perform. Do I believe AI has a place? Certainly. As a second opinion, a backup, a tool in the clinician's hand, yes. But as a first-line decider, no, because in the practice of medicine, the human factor is not an add-on. It's the very heart of the diagnosis.
Powerful perspectives from both sides. And we're just getting started. Coming up, we'll challenge both debaters on real-world effectiveness, what happens when AI gets it wrong, and whether machines truly belong at the bedside. We now move into round one, clinical effectiveness. If we're asking whether AI should take the lead in primary care diagnostics, the central question is this: does it actually work better than human clinicians? What does the evidence say, and what does experience in real-world settings reveal? Let's begin with a core question for both speakers. Can AI tools outperform general practitioners in diagnosing undifferentiated, real-world primary care presentations?
Thanks, Dr. Sage. This question cuts to the heart of the debate, and the answer is, in many cases, yes. We now have strong comparative studies showing that AI, especially large language models and deep learning algorithms, can match or outperform primary care physicians in diagnostic accuracy, particularly for single-system complaints. A 2020 study in The Lancet Digital Health compared an AI-powered triage system to physicians across 100 clinical vignettes. The AI was more accurate than 70% of the physicians, and that was 5 years ago, before GPT models were even part of clinical workflows. In dermatology, algorithms trained on image databases like HAM 10,000 are now classifying melanoma with accuracy comparable to dermatologists. Ophthalmologic AI platforms, approved by the FDA, can independently screen for diabetic retinopathy with no human input. And let's not forget scale. A single AI system can analyze thousands of cases per hour. Humans can't. That scale becomes critical when you're trying to triage thousands of patients in a health system under pressure. In fact, I'd argue that not using AI now borders on negligence in certain situations. If a tool exists that flags sepsis 2 hours earlier than clinical staff, or catches a missed pneumonia on a chest X-ray, why wouldn't we use it? Let's be clear, AI doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better than the current standard, and increasingly, it is.
Thank you, Dr. Malhotra. Dr. Hawthorne, your response.
Well, Raj certainly paints an optimistic picture. But I'd caution everyone listening not to confuse controlled studies with messy real-world medicine. Most AI diagnostic tools are validated in ideal conditions: clean data, clear symptoms, curated inputs. But real patients, they show up with half-finished sentences, vague complaints, overlapping systems, and emotional overlays. The data isn't just blood pressure and lab results. It's context, nonverbal cues, hesitation, and even what's not said. And that Lancet study, the vignettes used were static. But in practice, clinicians ask follow-up questions, probe inconsistencies, pick up on the patient who says, "I'm fine," while avoiding eye contact. AI doesn't pick up on subtext. As for those imaging studies, yes, AI is great at pattern recognition. But diagnostic medicine isn't always pattern-based. It's about differential diagnosis, weighing probabilities, and sometimes taking a leap based on gut instinct. Let me give a real example. I once saw a woman in her 50s with what looked like musculoskeletal chest pain. Her ECG was normal. AI would have flagged her as low risk. But I picked up something in her voice. She wasn't anxious, she was flat. I ordered a troponin and serial ECGs. She was having a silent MI. That's not pattern recognition. That's experience, intuition, and relationship, and we don't have a neural net for that yet. So yes, AI is improving, but the idea that it's better is based on metrics, not outcomes. Let's not confuse performance in a lab with wisdom in the clinic.
Thank you both. Let's drill down on this point of scale and reliability. Dr. Malhotra, you've spoken about volume and consistency, but critics worry that volume doesn't equal nuance. How do you respond to concerns about AI missing edge cases or overfitting to common patterns?
It's a valid concern, but I'd argue that human clinicians miss edge cases all the time, and usually because they're overworked, distracted, or cognitively overloaded. AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't anchor on one diagnosis and ignore red flags, and it can be trained with edge case reinforcement. Systems like Google's MedPalm 2 and Bayesian inference models now incorporate uncertainty, flag ambiguous cases, and suggest secondary evaluations. Is it perfect? No, but neither are we, and the data shows that combined AI plus human models outperform humans alone. It's not an either-or, it's a collaboration.
Collaboration I can support. Replacement, that's the worry. And even in collaboration, let's not assume synergy is automatic. Studies show that when AI gives wrong advice, clinicians often defer anyway, even when they know better. There's a phenomenon called automation bias. People trust the machine over their own judgment. So we risk amplifying mistakes at scale. One misdiagnosis by a doctor affects one patient. One misdiagnosis by AI could affect thousands. That's not efficiency, that's risk multiplied.
A powerful exchange. The promise of scalable precision on one side, the wisdom of clinical nuance on the other. Up next, we'll move from performance to principle. What are the ethical implications of letting AI make diagnostic decisions? Who's accountable when mistakes are made? And how do we preserve trust in an increasingly automated world? Welcome back to Humans versus Machines. We now enter round 2, ethical implications. Even if AI proves accurate and efficient, that's only part of the equation. What about trust, responsibility, transparency, and the human values at the heart of care? Let's start with this. Who should be held accountable when AI-driven diagnostic tools make a mistake? The developer? The physician? The health system? Or the machine itself?
Great question, and the answer is the clinician remains accountable because AI is a tool, not an autonomous actor. When a physician uses a stethoscope or orders a CT scan, and that information leads to a misdiagnosis, we don't blame the tool. We examine how it was used. The same should apply here. AI doesn't replace clinical judgment, it augments it. The physician integrates that data into a larger picture. That said, AI developers and institutions must take ethical responsibility too, especially in terms of transparency, training data, and bias mitigation. Regulatory frameworks are evolving to include explainability, that is, systems must show how they arrived at a conclusion. What we need isn't fear. We need shared accountability, good governance, and a clear understanding that clinicians remain the final decision makers.
Dr. Hawthorne, your view.
I appreciate Raj's intent, but in practice, it's not that simple. When a machine provides a diagnostic output with a 92% probability and a physician is pressured to be efficient, will they really challenge it, or will they defer to the algorithm, especially in busy clinics or telehealth settings? This creates a dangerous moral gray zone. If a mistake is made, who's to blame? The developer, the overworked clinician, the AI? The answer is everyone and no one. That's a recipe for eroded accountability. And what about the patient? Can they truly consent to a diagnosis made by a black box model trained on data they've never seen with logic they can't interpret? We're asking people to trust a system they can't question. That undermines both legal responsibility and the trust that is sacred in doctor-patient relationships.
Let's build on that. What does ethical consent look like when AI is involved in diagnosis?
Ethical consent is evolving, just like medicine itself. Patients already consent to complex processes they don't fully understand, like anesthesia or chemotherapy regimens. The key is transparency. We should disclose that AI was used in their diagnostic journey. We should explain, in simple language, that it's a tool trained on millions of cases, designed to assist, not override, their doctor. This isn't deception, it's partnership. Plus, the data shows that many patients want AI involved, especially when it reduces errors or shortens wait times. In fact, surveys from Pew and Deloitte show growing public trust in AI when it's used alongside physicians.
Transparency is noble, but real consent requires understanding, not just disclosure. When a patient agrees to surgery, they can ask questions. When AI makes a decision, there's no face to question. You can't ask the algorithm why it didn't consider your abdominal pain might be referred from a cardiac source. And let's not forget disparities. People with lower health literacy, language barriers, or from marginalized communities may be less likely to understand what AI is doing or to challenge it. That's how automated medicine becomes inequitable medicine.
One more ethical dimension before we wrap this round. Does the use of AI in diagnostics enhance or erode trust in the healthcare system?
In my view, it enhances it when used responsibly. We gain trust when we reduce misdiagnosis, improve consistency, and shorten diagnostic delays. We gain trust when rural patients finally have access to specialist-level decision support. Patients lose trust when care is rushed, fragmented, or variable. AI helps fix that. The key is not replacing the doctor, it's elevating the doctor's accuracy.
And yet, trust isn't built on accuracy alone, it's built on presence, continuity, and human empathy. The more we insert machines between patients and clinicians, the more we risk becoming technicians, not healers. That's the slippery slope. Technology should support trust, not substitute for the relational bond that defines healing.
Two compelling visions of what trust means and what's at stake when we redefine it. Up next, we shift from policy to people. We'll ask, what does AI mean for the heart of medicine? The doctor-patient relationship. Can tech deepen connection, or is it driving us apart? Welcome back. So far, we've explored diagnostic performance and ethical dilemmas. But now we shift to what many argue is the true soul of medicine, the human connection. As AI begins to participate in primary care diagnosis, what happens to the doctor-patient relationship? Does technology deepen the clinical experience or distance us from it? Let's begin with a question for both of you. Can AI ever preserve or even enhance the empathy and trust traditionally cultivated in the diagnostic conversation?
I believe it can, and I believe it already is. Let's consider how primary care visits work today. Rushed appointments, burned out providers, patients feeling unheard. The 2022 Medscape Physician Burnout and Depression Report found that 47% of physicians reported burnout, and EHR documentation was the top contributor. When AI is used to gather preliminary information, draft notes, and even suggest preliminary diagnoses, it frees the clinician to spend those precious few minutes actually listening, looking the patient in the eye, being fully present. Instead of asking 30 checkbox questions about fatigue, the doctor can say, "I see you've been feeling this way for 3 weeks. Tell me more." AI doesn't remove the human touch, it restores it. And for patients who might otherwise be dismissed or overlooked, AI can elevate red flags, reduce missed patterns, and ensure they're taken seriously. We're not replacing empathy, we're making room for it.
Dr. Hawthorne, your take?
It's a hopeful vision, but it misses something profound. The act of diagnosis is often the moment when trust is built. When a patient shares their symptoms, they're not just giving data. They're sharing their fears, their story, their humanity. And in that exchange, the physician is not just interpreting symptoms. They're interpreting meaning. They're reading between the lines, sensing subtext, and sometimes even noticing when a patient doesn't want to say what's wrong. The idea that AI can handle that front-end interaction and somehow preserve the bond, that's not preserving, it's outsourcing. Let me give an example. I once saw a man in his 40s, construction worker, came in for heartburn. I could have rushed him through. Heck, AI would have coded him as low-risk dyspepsia. But something in the way he avoided eye contact made me dig deeper. Turns out he was hiding chest pain, embarrassed to admit he was scared. He was having a non-STEMI. That moment of hesitation, no algorithm catches it, but a human does. Empathy doesn't begin after the machine hands you a chart. It begins at hello.
A powerful point, Dr. Hawthorne, but let's challenge both sides. Dr. Malhotra, what do you say to critics who argue that AI fragments care, turning human interaction into a post-processing step, rather than a meaningful encounter?
Honestly, I get that concern, and I agree. Badly implemented AI can absolutely dehumanize care, but that's not the technology's fault. It's a design issue. When AI is used poorly, like pop-up alerts or clunky decision trees that interrupt workflow, it frustrates everyone. But when it's used wisely, it works in the background, like a good assistant, not an intrusive boss. Take voice-based AI scribing, for example. Ambient AI tools like Nuance DAX or Suki are already transcribing visits in real time, allowing doctors to face their patients, not their keyboards. That's human-first design. As for trust, look at the 2023 NEJM Catalyst survey. Patients reported higher satisfaction when their doctor used AI-assisted tools, as long as the doctor explained them clearly. It didn't replace trust, it reinforced it. So I don't reject the human experience. I'm saying, AI lets us stop typing and start connecting again.
Dr. Hawthorne, what about time savings and workflow relief? Couldn't that enable clinicians to show up more fully?
In theory, yes, but in practice, the opposite often happens. AI integration tends to increase cognitive load. You're now managing pop-up alerts, cross-checking probabilities, and wondering whether to override the algorithm. It's not freeing, it's distracting. And even when AI reduces documentation time, it shifts the emotional labor elsewhere. Patients start to question, did my doctor actually assess me or just read the AI printout? That seed of doubt damages the bond. Studies show that trust is most deeply formed in unscripted moments. Humor, silence, a shared glance. I can't script those. And once you interrupt that flow, you risk reducing care to transaction. Technology doesn't replace burnout. It can displace it, sure. But the real cure for burnout? Meaningful connection. Let's not sacrifice that to save minutes.
You've both made deeply human arguments, from AI's potential to liberate clinicians to the irreplaceable subtlety of human presence. Before we close this round, let me ask each of you for a final word on what human-centered medicine should look like in a world where AI is here to stay.
To me, human-centered medicine means putting the patient experience first, and using every tool we have to support it. AI isn't the enemy of empathy. It's the tool that helps us make room for it. If we implement it wisely, we can take back time, reduce error, and focus on what matters, the person in front of us. Human-centered medicine isn't just about focusing on people, it's about relating to them through vulnerability, attention, and care. The more we mechanize those early clinical encounters, the more we risk losing their soul. AI may assist us, but it should never stand between us and the people we serve.
From the data stream to the heartbeat, from efficiency to empathy, we've just heard two visions of what the future could look like. Up next, the lightning round. Quick hits, strong takes, rapid rebuttals. You won't want to miss it. It's time for the lightning round, where nuance meets the stopwatch. I'll pose a series of rapid-fire prompts. Each debater has 30 to 45 seconds to respond. No long monologues, no lectures, just your gut, your view, and your best case. Let's begin. Prompt 1. Should AI be allowed to autonomously diagnose minor conditions like URTIS or conjunctivitis without physician review?
Yes, low-risk, well-defined conditions like conjunctivitis or viral URTIs are ideal for automation. It frees up physicians and speeds access to care. AI doesn't need to guess when the evidence is crystal clear.
No, because even minor conditions can be masks for serious illness. That simple pink eye could be iritis, that sore throat, Lemierre's syndrome. What's minor isn't always obvious until it is.
Prompt 2. Should AI be permitted to communicate diagnostic information directly to patients through apps or bots?
Absolutely not. A diagnosis isn't just data. It's context, delivery, and emotional support. Dumping it through a chatbot is not only cold, it's clinically irresponsible.
I'd say yes, if the communication is clear, evidence-based, and includes escalation options. AI chatbots can explain results, flag red flags, and reduce anxiety by giving instant feedback. It's not about replacing doctors, it's about bridging gaps.
Prompt 3. Does using AI in diagnostic processes make medicine more equitable or less?
More equitable. AI extends care to remote areas, identifies patterns human bias often misses, and can standardize quality where humans may vary. Equity demands scalable tech.
Less equitable. AI models are trained on biased data. They risk reinforcing disparities, especially if minority populations are underrepresented in training sets. You can't fix injustice with code alone.
Prompt 4. Should clinicians be required to disclose to patients when AI was used in making their diagnosis?
Yes, full stop. Informed consent requires transparency. Patients deserve to know what informed their diagnosis and whether it came from a machine, a mind, or both.
Agreed, but with clarity, not fear. Disclosure should be empowering. Patients should know AI supported their doctor, not replace them. Framing is everything.
Prompt 5. What's more dangerous? Over-reliance on AI or overconfidence in human judgment?
Overconfidence in human judgment. Most medical errors come from cognitive biases, anchoring, confirmation bias, tunnel vision. AI offers a second brain. Why not use it?
Over-reliance on AI because once clinicians stop questioning, we lose the ability to catch mistakes. AI can err just as dangerously and faster than humans. Trust, but verify.
And that wraps our lightning round. Rapid insights, bold takes, no shortage of passion. Whether it's bias, consent, or communication, you've just heard the clinical crossroads we now stand at. Coming up next, closing statements. Each debater has one final chance to make their case. Don't go anywhere. We now move to closing statements. Each debater has 2.5 minutes to deliver their final thoughts. to tie together their arguments and speak directly to you, the listeners. Dr. Raj Malhotra, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Sage. When I think about this debate, I don't see it as a contest between humans and machines. I see it as a call for collaboration, the best of human care, supported by the best of technological progress. AI isn't here to replace physicians. It's here to extend their reach, reduce the noise, highlight what matters, and unburden them from the parts of medicine that too often drain their time, attention, and joy. We have solid evidence that AI can match or outperform clinicians in diagnosing many conditions, especially when the inputs are structured, the symptoms are clear, and the stakes are high. But more importantly, it's scalable. It can reach rural communities. It can triage crises. It can offer answers when no doctor is nearby. Yes, we must be cautious. Yes, we must demand transparency, ethical design, and constant validation, but we must also be brave enough to evolve. We don't ignore the stethoscope. We don't fear the ECG. We shouldn't shy away from the next great tool in our hands. The question is no longer, can we trust AI? It's, can we afford not to use it when it might make us better? Let's move forward, not by letting go of the art of medicine, but by giving it a powerful ally. Thank you, Dr. Malhotra. Now we turn to Dr. William Hawthorne for the final word.
Thank you. I want to be very clear. I am not anti-technology. I'm a practicing physician. I've taught thousands of students. I use decision support. I admire innovation. But there is a line, and that line is the initial act of diagnosis, the moment when a patient entrusts their story, their fears, their lives to a professional who is not just trained to process data, but to interpret meaning. AI can recognize patterns, but it cannot recognize pain. It cannot hear the grief behind a cough or the desperation masked by indifference. It cannot build rapport, restore dignity, or spot a lie told out of fear. When we let machines take the lead in diagnosis, we don't just risk error, we risk disconnection. We risk turning care into coding, patients into profiles, stories into summaries. Do I believe AI has a role? Yes, as an aid, as a backup, as a checker, but not as the first face, the first ear, or the first mind a patient meets. Because medicine is not just about what we know, it's about how we know it and how we convey it, human to human. Let's innovate, but let's not abandon the soul of our profession.
Two compelling final words. One embracing AI as a force multiplier. The other reminding us that presence and perception are still irreplaceable. We'll be back shortly for our final segment, a post-debate reflection and audience wrap-up. Stay with us.
And that brings us to the close of Episode 1 of Humans versus Machines, the Medicine Debate.
Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've just heard. Dr. Raj Malhotra made a compelling case for AI as a force for good, as a tool to enhance efficiency, reduce diagnostic errors, and extend care to those who've historically been underserved. In his view, using AI in primary diagnosis is not about replacement. It's about partnership, precision, and scale. On the other side, Dr. William Hawthorne urged us to slow down, to remember that diagnosis is not just about algorithms. It's about empathy, context, and relational insight. His warning: we risk losing something vital when we delegate our first point of contact with patients to machines. Both debaters agree on one thing: AI is here, and it's not going away. The real question is, how do we integrate it without losing ourselves in the process? So now, we turn the question to you, our listeners. Do you believe AI should be trusted to make first-line diagnostic decisions in primary care? Should it act independently for routine cases? Should it only assist clinicians? Or should it stay out of diagnostic roles entirely? Vote now on our website at medscroll.ai/podcast or by clicking the link in the episode description. We'll publish results and select a few listener comments to highlight in next week's episode. You can also join the conversation on social media using the hashtag Humans vs. Machines podcast. Tell us what stood out, what you agreed with, and what made you rethink your position. Before we go, here's a sneak peek at next week's episode. Can AI avatars deliver bad news better than human doctors? We'll explore virtual agents, emotionally responsive algorithms, and whether technology can, or should, take on one of the most human responsibilities in medicine. You won't want to miss that one. Be sure to subscribe to Humans vs. Machines wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google, and leave us a rating if you enjoyed today's discussion. It really helps others discover the show. On behalf of the MedScroll team and our digital debaters, I'm Dr. Sage. Thanks for listening, reflecting, and debating with us. We'll see you next week.